So there have been these ASMR videos about how these Viking goddesses uh, that were so powerful, Odin couldn't escape them. Which that very last sentence is true. Odin could not escape them, and it's not because they were almighty, powerful Viking goddesses that nobody could control or anything of that nature. What the people Odin could not escape is the Nornir. Odin fought against his fate and tried to change his fate, uh, but ultimately he could not. You cannot change your fate. I can't change my fate. He couldn't change his fate. Uh, he tried, but even he tried. Uh, but there were some powerful women by the uh, term as velour, and it states that they were marked by their wand as women of rare power, and they're especially gifted in prophecies. So Odin, with all the knowledge that he wanted to acquire, sought an audience with one of the prophetess that was raised by giants at the beginning of the world to hear the ancient history recounted and to learn about the future. Because Odin loved to know about not any knowledge. That's why he had Hunin and Munin go out every day and come back every night at the feast. They would sit upon his shoulders and tell him everything that they have learned. Uh, he hung himself from the branches of Yggdrasil after he sacrificed his eye to Mimir's well to be able to read the runes, which he also stabbed himself with Gungnir, and so and he refused any food or drink that would be brought to the brink of death. That way, the Mimir's well would grant him with the knowledge that he sought. So, but she knew that the moon would be swallowed and the sun grow black, and she also knew that Balder would return once the world had been reborn, which the only time the world would have been reborn was after Ragnarok, because it states that a man and woman hid inside a tree during Ragnarok, and then after Ragnarok they re-emerged from the tree. Um, so uh, so Balder would have been reborn after Ragnarok, because we all know that Ragnarok had become about after Balder had been killed uh, by a mistletoe arrow, or in some tellings by a mistletoe spear. But either way, he was killed by mistletoe. The prophetess also spoke about uh, these women called the Norns, who determined all that happens, both good and bad. And when the thread woven by the Norns runs out, there is not a human nor god powerful enough to change this destiny. Their fate cannot be worked around. So basically, it is sealed. There is no undoing it. You are stuck with it. And that depend. And if I remember correctly, I've also read that depending on the mood that the Norns were in, depended on if you were going to have a happy and successful and prosperous life, or if you were going to have a rough life, or if you were going to fall in the middle of such, or if you were going to have a become a graybeard, or if you were going to die as an infant. It all depended on how the Norns were. They didn't only weave threads of fate, they carved runes inside wood, and they also carved uh, runes inside uh, knots. Um, Now, what the Norns actually did, besides decide the threat, decide your fate, is they also took care of Yggdrasil by taking water from the well of fate and mix it with a white clay. They used that mixture and applied it to Yggdrasil's roots to stop the roots from decaying. And so, without their care of Yggdrasil, Yggdrasil would be in a much worse state, although on one side it's already decaying. Uh, their names were Destiny, Becoming, and Upcoming, which would fall in line with why they were called uh, Destiny, Upcoming, and Becoming, because your destiny is what you're meant to become. Uh, Becoming is would be present time, or and then upcoming would be foreshadowing. Um, so they have a hall which is close to the Well of Fate. The only description that we have of it is that it's a beautiful hall. That's and that it's near the Well of Fate, which would be by Yggdrasil. That's the only recount of it. Um, and then once they're the only way you know that their work is completed is when Yggdrasil shivers and the world falls into the abyss, which would be Gnungagap. That's all there is to it. That is not. There's no way to make this a almost a 2 hour ASMR video because you want to try to pander to certain people. We don't, they're not goddesses. They are actually above the gods because they control the gods and goddesses' fate. They control the Aesir, Vanir, and mortals. Uh, that's it. That's all they do. They take care of Yggdrasil. They they decide my fate, Odin's fate, Thor's fate, Jormungandr's fate, Loki's fate. They just decide the fate of everybody. That is it. Um, so they do not sit on a pantheon. They don't sit on. They're not worshipped like Thor, Odin, Loki, Heimdall, Tyr. On the Aesir, they're not worshipped like uh, or they're not worshipped like Sif or Frigg with the Aesir. They're not worshipped like uh, Frey or Freya on the Vanir. Uh, so to call them um, god or goddesses is would basically be like saying Hercules or Heracles is a full blown god when he's not. He was actually a demigod because he was a born of a mortal woman that was impregnated by Zeus. So he was a demigod. But he doesn't sit on a pantheon. He's a demigod. That's it. Or if you want to go to God of War, God of War's Kratos was a demigod because he was born of a mortal woman that was impregnated by Zeus. And so he only achieved full godhood when he killed Hades. That's it. So if we say that uh, the the Nornir are goddesses and actually Viking goddesses at that, then it's really a slap to the culture because Viking was not a term that they used back during the Viking Age. It was more of a job that they had when they went raiding. That's it. Uh, So I don't get how we can elevate the Nornir, or rather de escalate the Nornir from these supreme beings that controlled every the fate of everybody versus uh, putting them down on the pantheon where Odin would actually have ruled them because him being the All Father, the High One, and so it's not feasible. It's not plausible. It makes no sense. Please, and it's not 9 realms. It's 9 worlds. A realm would then partake in a whole different meaning than if it was a different world. So um, that's just some misconceptions that we seem to have, or a lot of people seem to have, is that it's 9 worlds, and in some videos you hear it, 9 worlds and then 9 realms. Uh, you know, it, can we at least when we talk about stuff like this make it accurate and stick to one terminology? Either if you're going to call it 9 realms, keep calling it 9 realms throughout the entire video. If you're going to call it 9 worlds, call it 9 worlds throughout the video. Don't flip flop. And so another and for so that's that's it right there. I don't want to keep drowning this on, um, but please do not think that the Nornir are Viking goddesses that even Odin couldn't escape. The only thing Odin couldn't escape is his fate, which he met at Ragnarok, even though he did actively try to change it. You can try to change your fate all you want, but once it's sealed, it's sealed. There's no changing it. And Odin unfortunately learned that the hard way at Ragnarok.